About 7 years ago, my mom died from MS. She had the most aggressive type of MS, primary progressive multiple sclerosis, which is long for PPMS, and she became paralyzed from the mouth down. It started when she was a normal, healthy woman in her early 40s. After a long time of suffering symptoms, she was diagnosed with MS, followed by a rapid progression of the illness. Under supervision of severe knowledge-deficient doctors in Norway, trained solely by big pharmaceutical companies to drug down patients like my mom with their cruel drugs that did not cure the disease nor halt its rapid progression, she died only 63 years young. I personally suffered a lot of trauma observing the illness progression and helplessness to do anything but pray. She used to ask me, "Have they found a cure yet?" as tears would run down from her eyes. It was heartbreaking to say the least. In the period before she died, I was also sick with a long-time sinus infection, thyroid problems, and low vitamin D levels. My doctor said I could take 20 micrograms of vitamin D3, but be careful to take 40 micrograms of vitamin D. With this ridiculous advice from a knowledge-deficient doctor, I started to research more information about vitamin D3. I found some groups on Facebook about the topic, and that is also how I discovered the Coimbra protocol. However, the information back then was limited and most of it was in Portuguese. And that time my mom was in the very late stages of her illness and could not travel from Norway to Brazil. Miraculously, I recovered enough to visit her in the hospital a couple of times before she died, and I later arranged her funeral with my then-to-be husband, Tobias. About 3 years ago, I became sicker than I was previously. Constantly fatigued, eye problems such as cramps and flushing, photopsia, and just not feeling well overall. We tried to find out what it was. I increased my daily dose of vitamin D3 to 2,000 IU a day, but I still got worse. After several complaints to my doctor and another doctor, also reminding her that my mom had MS, I finally got an MRI. The MRI found some lesions in my brain and wrote in the report, "Cannot rule out the possibility of progressive demyelinating illness." However, my first examination with a neurologist resulted in no clinical signs of MS. 2 months after my first neurologist appointment, I felt pretty desperate about my declining condition, so I contacted a trained Coimbra protocol specialist who got me started on the Coimbra protocol. However, when the dose of vitamin D3 was raised to 1,000 IU, I felt very unpleasant. I got unbearable tinnitus and my eye cramps got worse, etc. I eventually had to reduce it back down to 2,000 IU, and I had been on about that dose ever since, as doses in between did not work out either. My second checkup was with a new neurologist, a much quicker and better doctor in my opinion. My very first MRI cannot exclude the possibility of progressive demyelinating illness, whereas the second MRI done about 11 months after the first MRI and 6 months after I increased the vitamin D to an average of 1,000 IU a day, said cannot exclude demyelinating illness. So from the period before I started supplementing to 6 months after, it went from suspicion of progressive demyelinating illness to suspicion of demyelinating illness. The word progressive was removed. Yay! Praise God. There was no illness progression in 11 months. I also had severe fatigue, which is much better now. At the worst, I would have energy for no more than 2 to 3 hours a day, and I would quickly be drained from just having simple conversations. My eyes would be small and very light sensitive. It is thought to be that 40% of the US population has vitamin D3 deficiency. So if 40% of about the 300 plus million people of the country suffers from that, I can only imagine that there is a very high number here in Norway too, or even higher percentage considering we are missing the sun for over 8 months of every year. And when it comes out, there is no guarantee that it will be helping us produce any vitamin D3 at all. The gene test also indicates that a large number of people might not necessarily have autoimmune diseases but defective vitamin D receptors, which again can lead to autoimmune problems if not being supplemented with sufficient vitamin D3. As you can see, I'm very happy about doing my art and jewelry and painting classes. It really helps with trauma and releases you from the flight, fight, and freeze response. So if you want to sign up for those classes, you can go to this link here or down below this video. So you see, I don't have time to have too many one-on-one clients, even though I like to. I don't have that much time. But I would like to invite you to my vitamin D course, where you can learn about vitamin D for your health. And in these days of the coronavirus, where the vitamin D deficiency is indeed one of the main causes for the coronavirus deaths, it is very important to know what's going on in this world and what information are held from us, twisted, or watered down. So I'm delighted to present you my newest course about vitamin D. It's covering many topics like the 4 levels of vitamin D, detoxification, cofactors, not all supplements are created equal, iodine, Dr. John Cannell and vitamin D3 safety, vitamin D3 for kids, vitamin D3 for black skin, not all doctors are created equal, testimonies, Debbie's story, exercise, FAQs, and more. If you want to find out more and get this course for a limited special price, go to vitamindcourse.com or click the link below and you will get there. See you inside the course.